Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get going, just let you know your monitor's not working.
It looks like a new monitor. Oh, it's so sad.
Worked during the budget.
It was,
Working lives.
yeah.
Do you have any revisions to the agenda?
We do. We're going to actually ask to remove the budget transfer from the agenda. And the reason for that is that eFinance is giving us a few hiccups right now. And so getting everything pulled together was not possible for tonight. So we'll have it.
And is that it?
That is it.
All right. Summary of non-public actions from October 2nd, 2019. Mrs. Harrison, right? Not Mr.
I'm sorry.
What's that?
It says Mr. Harrison.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hey,
Yeah.
is he here?
Mrs. Harrison made a
I wish.
Mrs. Harrison made a motion to
Sorry.
that's right, approve the non-public minutes of September 18, 2019. Mr. Myers, second. Motion carried 5-0. Mrs. Harrison made a motion to approve a 3% salary increase for the superintendent and add 3 personal days to his contract to be in line with other district administrative contracts. Mr. Burke, second. Motion carried 5-0. We have no presentations or recognitions, correspondence.
None?
So we'll go right to superintendent comments.
So the first piece there is about a gift of a flag to GMS. So there's a copy of a letter for you to take a look at. But Mr. Bean, Barry Bean, who I think is pretty well known in town, came into GMS to donate a U.S. flag because he was concerned that one had not been flying at the flagpole. So we wanted to thank him for that donation and have sent a letter on behalf of the school district to him. And that flag is now flying. And the other piece is it raised the whole issue of the flag. And so we now have lights on it. So the flag is flying 24 hours a day with, it's lit so that's appropriate. And basically we're in a better spot because we have that flag up there. I did point out to our maintenance people that there is an RSA. The board should know there is an RSA that says that the U.S. flag must be flown at every school building. And if it's not flown, the school board is guilty of a violation and you can all be fined for that. So I pointed out to our staff, we need to make sure to protect our board members
Thank you.
and not have a fine on their huge salary for being a part of the board.
Is that also a requirement for the state flag before?
It is. And so we're working to get the state flags up also. So in fact, you have to have 2 flags.
I did tell Matt Lepore that when he was looking for to gauge how much interest there was in a town flag, I did say that the schools would like them too.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a full flagpole.
So we can add 3. So the second thing, you have a clickable link to a memo. And actually, Devin has sent me this, and I failed to give it to the board last time. I think I verbally told you that we were funding the mental health clinician out of the budget to make sure that we're using the budget funds for that position. And if we end up doing anything with the school psych and services there, we'll be using the grant funding that way. So we'll make sure that we're getting all the services provided for our students at the high school.
What's the rationale for that providing? Because we used to have a psychologist,
I did earlier.
and then so why would the psychologist who's contracted now be paid out of the grant? instead
So
of
we
the
were not able to
salary?
find a psychologist. So there wasn't a candidate that was available. The candidate or the person we had last year in the position was on an alternative certification plan because of the shortage. And so the feeling was that if we have a mental health clinician who can provide direct services to students during the day, that we should be using the
So
money
have
for
we
that.
hired that as a permanent position, or is it a 1 year? Is it a 1 year position? Because
So
I thought that we were looking at hiring a
the
psychologist.
person was hired. I don't know if we advertised it as 1 year only. I'm not positive. I'll have to double check that with Devin. But we used the money that was in the budget for that position. And then there are some psych evals that need to be done by a school psychologist. And so that's what we had to contract for because the mental health clinician cannot do those.
But if like next year we're able to hire a psychologist, then the mental health clinician would disappear.
That would be the case, but I just need to double check that we didn't, that we advertise as 1 year only. And this person is with that understanding, which I'm not certain that we did that.
Good to know.
Don't all the positions come with a 1 year for the most part?
They do, but I think when you hire somebody in, you have a duty to tell them you're on a 1 year contract so that they know. But you're right, it's a non-tenured position, so that can be kept to 1 year.
Again, if you can find a psychologist.
Well, I'm not confident that next year's candidate pool will be any greater than this year, so we may be in the same situation. And it may actually be a smarter way to proceed if you hover above it for a second and say, okay, somebody who can provide the direct services to students. And then on the occasion that we have to have, a school psych do an eval, to contract that piece out and to use federal grant funds to do that.
Would the federal grant funds have funded the mental health worker? Is that the reason? I just
They
don't know
would
why it's
have.
being shuffled.
They would
you know?
have, but then the pickle is that if we were in the same scenario next year and we left the budget money there, so it's sort of like which pool do you want to tap into?
Just to go back to the flag real quick.
Yes.
I don't remember where I read it, but I'm not sure you can fly 3 flags from a pole, just so you know.
What's that?
I'm not sure you're allowed to fly 3 flags from a pole. I think it's, for some reason, I think there's something, it's 2.
You're the history teacher.
I know, I just remember reading it somewhere and
I was not a Boy Scout.
I looked it up, I couldn't find anything, but there's no mention of 3, it's always 2.
Always two.
And I think it had to do, I read it, that new organization, Honor and Remember.
Oh, yeah.
Familiar with them?
Mhm.
They were trying to get their flag on the State House, and there was a problem with the MIA flag, because you can only have, and I might be wrong, but just so you know, I thought there was.
We'll check that.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, yeah,
If not, we can put another poll up.
All right. So next on the agenda, or next report, is the school enrollment projections, which I think they were shared with you last week, right? So let me just walk you through what you have. So remember, it's a slightly different format than you've seen previous to last year, because this is basically a refresh update with current on October numbers. And we've updated it to this year, the 1920 school year is in green. And then the next 3 projected years are all in yellow on the sheet. So you can see that our enrollment is projected to decline over the 4-year window. And basically, GMS is predicted to go up. LMS is predicted to go down, and the high school is predicted to go down. So, and then that translates into, which is probably the most helpful piece, the staffing projection. So looking at projections for 2021, which is the budget that we're building. And remember, we have our opening session with the board on Saturday. And so you can see that the staffing changes are basically neutral at GMS and neutral at LMS, because we're predicting a 3rd grade increase of 1 and a 4th grade decrease of 1. And at LMS, it is a prediction of an increase of 1 in 6th and a decrease of 1 in 8th. So basically, the staffing should all be neutral. And we're also we're eyeing the kindergarten number, because that, as you know, we're staffed at 4 this year, but we had 5 in the budget. And you'll see that our recommendation will be to continue to carry the 5th, because it's just too unpredictable and it's right on the cusp. And so
Which grade? I'm sorry.
kindergarten.
So we're maintaining an 81 number for that. Right?
That's correct. So we're predicting 81 again, because that's the number that we had settled on, which was our real number last year. So we said we're going to carry that forward. We came 5 under it this year. We also adjusted that class size guideline there. So for right now, we're going to budget for the 5th and only plan to implement that if, in fact, the students arrive, so that we actually need it.
So, going to grade 8, has you had discussion with Tom as far as how that would look?
We've had a preliminary discussion.
What
Is that when they
what do you mean by
combine the
that?
Is that when they combine the literature?
Yeah.
How, do we know how that's working? I don't have any kids down there now. Do we have
I
feedback?
suppose we could ask, I could recommend directly that question.
In terms of the
The lit tech and
tech
the,
and the, it's actually, I mean, it's something that we are currently, we have the opportunity as we're doing the revision to look at in terms of the integration of it. And actually this summer, the 2 8th grade teachers were both at the Live to Learn Academy and worked very collaboratively on their curriculum documents so that with the goal of having them merge better.
Mhm.
That's what I believe you guys are asking.
So one of the 8th grade teachers will go down to 6th grade, or they'll juggle it that way?
They'll have to be, yeah, he'll have to
Yeah.
do some internal
Yeah.
shuffling.
so,
And really, I'm just giving you a taste of it now, but Tom will be here Saturday, so he'll have to have an exact plan as to what that would look like.
so I guess, as a parent that's been through LMS, I guess my question is, I know the reasons that we doubled up in math in 7th grade was because our math scores were low and we thought that would bulk them up and give them, a double dip so that they can have continued success in high school. Question though is it working? Based on, what does data tell us? Is it working? Does it have a positive effect? And is it still necessary? Just, you don't have to tell me tomorrow that we're going to cut it, but it's just a concern that I have because it takes away from that continuity in structure. And then they double up in essentially language arts in 8th grade.
So they have two, remind me, they have 2 math teachers
Two
in
math
7th
math
grade.
sevens.
blocks,
So they have
yeah.
2 blocks of math. And we do see, our data does show a pretty significant jump
Mhm.
between our 6th grade scores and our 7th grade scores, and they continue to go up 7,
Okay.
8. So just looking at that, is it working?
Yeah.
It appears to be.
But
Okay.
is that at the price of a writing class or?
Right.
That's, I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there.
And,
What's the data say for that? I mean, we can look
right,
at
our
that.
writing,
Curious.
We can look
right,
at
our
the
writing
least-
data isn't, from what I remember anyway, our writing data is not.
Well, I mean, our ELA data in general is much higher than our
Right.
math.
Which
Yeah.
is consistent with the state.
Correct. Correct.
But I guess my concern as a parent is what can we be doing, because we're rocking it like up to 3rd grade, and then we see a dip in 4th and 5th, and then getting them back up to par by the end of 7th grade. It seems like, I don't know, maybe we should look at doing more shoring up in 4, 5, 6, and supporting those kids so that we don't need to double 7.
And I think it'll be interesting to see this year where we have the math support
Right.
that is targeting 5
5
and
and
6.
6. Yeah.
So, it is something that we're going to have to watch the data and we're going to have to take a look at.
Good. I'm glad we have that tutor. I'm glad the voters approved that tutor.
You're in pretty good shape as far as class size too, compared to our guidelines.
And they match pretty closely.
Yeah.
And remember, these are projections, right? So when we have the conversation with the principals, they could be making recommendations that differ from the projection. So, Tom may come in and say, gosh, I can't really lose that 8th grade position. Here's why. And he's going to give a rationale. It's ultimately up to the board, to staff, based on that. So I'm just showing you based on the numbers, how many current 7th graders there are, what the projections are going forward, what would be the logical thing to do to keep the ratio relative to the class size guideline.
Next year's 8th grade class is no different than that class has been. You lose an entire class.
Yeah.
You're going from 113 to 93.
That is correct. Hence -1.
Right.
No, but I mean, it's an entire class. It's not like 15 or something. It's-
Yeah. But again, I would expect the principal to come in and say,
Yeah.
here's the impact on programming. Here's, so, we just have to realize that it is different at the middle school than in elementary school, where students are more self-contained and classes are classes. There's so much movement taking place that he'll have some rationale as to how he wants to work with that. And then the board has to decide. All right. Anything else on the projections? So let me just ask a question. The budget committee has asked for this. And do you want this to go forward? Is there a meeting tomorrow night, or do you want to hold,
No,
is that a meeting?
They have a week off.
Okay. So this will give us time to wrestle with it on Saturday. And then we can get the report
I think
to
you
them.
still
to
share
our
it with
reps.
the budget committee now. I mean, it's not gonna do any harm. I mean, it's out there. It's public information. Let's
Sure.
share it with the budget committee, and I mean, we're gonna make some
Yep.
changes on Saturday, so yeah, go ahead and give it to them.
All right.
Again, they're projections at this point. And
That's all they are.
Yep.
All right, so next up, we have the Grade 4 Historical Society. So if you remember when the society came about the grammar school, they shared that they had developed a curriculum, and then I'm not linked, so we'll get you a link, but here's the document. And so this is a course that was developed by members of the
I have it,
Historical Society
a couple.
with units, objectives, et cetera. So I just want the board to know that we have this, we've shared it. I've communicated this to our elementary, middle, and high school people, so we are getting word out about this, and then we'll see where it fits in with the curriculum and what can happen.
Cool.
Did you see it, Mary? I don't know that you got it.
It's pretty awesome.
I
Sorry.
won't get it. We just got it to you. Perfect. All right, so special election cost updates. So if you click on that link,
it's double in a week.
it brings you to a sheet. And I need the board to tell me how much drilling down to do on this. And I'll tell you why in a second. So basically what we've determined are as of October 2nd, what were the true costs that we have spent. And we've had legal notices that we've had to put in newspapers, delivery of the signed petition to the attorneys, the projected cost of ballot printing, and the cost of labor for deliberative session. So what we did the other night. So we spent $2,436.10 so far on those items. And then we're projecting that the voting itself will cost another $2,001.11, bringing us to $4,437.21. The piece that I need to know is that, so we started to go through the legal billing, delineate what is related to the special election as opposed to other costs that we've had. Each attorney who's worked on the case gets a different rate. So you want me to go back and to drill down and say, okay, Mike Elwell's hourly rate is this, Diane Goro's is that, so that we can break it out specific to them? Or are you comfortable if I just take the total number of hours that were spent in a month against the total bill and just saying, here's how much of that was, 35% was based on the special election. How specific do you want me to get on it?
I don't know if we have to go, drill down that much as far as like separate the two attorneys. I mean, two attorneys work on it. What's their bill?
Okay. They make different hourly. So,
Yeah.
and because, Mike's done most of the work, but Diane did stand in for the court piece. So that shifted it a little bit, but okay, we'll just do it as how many hours against that monthly bill and get that reported.
So I just have two questions on it.
Sure.
The first is paper ballots. Just the number looked low to me. I didn't know what's the,
Well,
3,000,
yeah.
that's what we were told.
okay.
You mean the number of ballots?
Yeah.
Well, we had 1,700 voters in the March election. So,
I didn't know if there's a formula that they base off last election, last couple elections.
She estimates, usually we estimate 2,500, but we have run short at times. So what she usually just does double the last election or
Okay.
close to it. Yeah.
I mean, the money's, I mean, it's minimal, but I was just
Money is
curious.
just for us copying it.
Right, I was just curious, like, where the number 3,000 came up. Then my next question is,
But keep in mind too, Brian, if that was 3,000 Scantron ballots, it would be how much
Oh,
money?
my God.
Oh,
It
yeah.
would probably be about $25.
Yeah.
so I know the cost is like,
It's a big
This is
shift
just
down.
7 cents a copy.
Yep.
I multiplied it by, I think that's what we made.
so then my next one, I don't know if it's contractual or not, but I mean, the cost of labor from the top section to the next section down is like dramatically different. Like the moderator for 2 hours is getting $200. Then down below for 15 hours, he's getting $10.40 an hour for
The
$156.
moderator gets $200 as a stipend for the year for deliberative session.
Okay.
So we've had 2. So he's not gonna get an extra 200. We just calculated that in as, because you figure he got maybe 100 for the first one and now he's got another one, so he's getting another 100. He's already been paid, basically.
So every deliberative session, he gets $100
He actually gets 200 for the whole year.
in the whole year.
Right. And
Regardless of
then
number of
at
sessions.
voting,
But-
because they're there for 15 hours, he gets an hourly rate.
Okay.
And typically with deliberative, there's 2 a year, the town and ours, right?
Yes.
This year, there's 3. So the same $200 is.
So was that
covering
200 paid in March?
It probably was.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Well, I'm just
I
wondering-
don't think it was paid after the election.
Well, and it
So I'm just
doesn't-
wondering, does that cost actually belong in this
Well, I
calculation?
wasn't sure. That's why I put it in. I thought,
Well, and is the district paying that? I guess is what I'm saying.
well, the
Well, we have
district
to pay
did
every
pay him
year
200.
You have to.
Right. So we pay 200 every year.
Does the town pay 200?
I'm sorry?
Does the town pay him too?
I think. I
I would
don't.
assume so, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
isn't it?
I was just
I would
curious.
expect.
Yeah.
It's
I
probably
just-
the same.
Yeah. I don't
Actually,
know.
because
I
that's
wouldn't cut
100.
it if he gets if he gets 200 a year and we've already paid him, then
That's what I'm saying. So the
it
cost
doesn't
out of
need,
it.
you know,
I mean, I just wanted to
it's silly to argue over $200,
make it as
but
realistic as possible. I could split it between March and September and put 100 instead of 200. Because he is doing another
Well, I
delivery.
would think he was already paid his 200 for March. So
Yeah.
him doing another one, it doesn't even belong in here.
Okay.
I know 200 is nothing. It's just
No,
that,
no, that's fine.
I mean, it really jumps out at you when you're looking at
Yeah.
like 2 hours, he's getting 200, then down here it's 15 hours, he's not even getting that.
yeah, I agree.
I was curious about the admin assistant for 15 hours. What's that? What's that?
That's if I have to sit in there.
Okay, if you have to sit in there, got it.
Because the school district clerk can't be there all day. So someone may have to observe,
Okay,
but and like I said, that's projected.
that's just,
It could be nothing, or it could just be the night.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're talking to, am I wrong? We're talking to the town about paying the town clerk.
Right.
And the only people we didn't have to pay was the supervisors at the checklist. Because they get paid by the town, period.
Okay. So just to recap, we still need to calculate the legal fees. We're
Right.
going to give, I don't know. I think if they get a different rate, we'd know which hours Diane worked and which hours
So-
Mike worked,
So
right?
on the bill, it says ME,
Mhm.
2.5 hours.
Okay.
So what it doesn't do is say what his hourly rate is. So
Oh,
I have
I
to go
see.
back and find that out. So I started calculating hours and all of a sudden I'm like, well, wait a minute, if I'm going to turn this into dollars
Mhm.
and the rates are different, which Barbara assured me they are different, but
Yeah.
we don't know what they are. So we need to find that out.
Okay.
I mean,
But
if it's that simple, I suppose, if you can just add up all his hours and multiply by
Right.
his rate and do the same thing with
Yeah.
Diane, then why not do it?
Okay.
Yeah. I'd rather be a little more
How
specific.
come
I
their
think the
bills don't
budget
have the
committees can do
hours,
that.
the hourly rate on it?
Yeah,
Must.
that's a really good question because I've seen other legal bills where they break it out and they say this attorney makes this much, this attorney makes that much. And it's
Well,
not on
if
there.
it's a
so-
half an hour and you see a cost, then
Yep.
should
Yeah, I think we should be
figure out.
as kind of specific as we can.
Okay. Well,
The budget committee's been asking for that.
Yep.
So, and the town and the voters.
we'll get that. Anything else on the projected cost? All right, so the last thing is the education funding. So with the state budget finally being passed, it took us until, I think this chart came in last week, that we were finally able to see what our total dollars were. So, and then we provided you with some links to some guidance that we're getting on how to utilize this. And I think the board has some
I think
decisions to make. So it's all
big.
one big document. So basically, the new ongoing education funding is the first column. So in other words, this is money that we're getting this year. It's unanticipated revenue because it's new. So we were not expecting to have $425,679 in state revenue because that's new. You can see next year it goes up to $512,359.
Where's the,
Yeah, we're lost.
we have a link to a letter from the
School Board Association, you don't have this spreadsheet?
You don't have the
Nope.
spreadsheet?
That's on the bottom.
Is it at the bottom?
It's temporary.
Which one is it? There's
error.
4 different.
It looks, it's one big spreadsheet that has Litchfield.
I have it in my,
Nope.
I have it in my drive if you want me to share it with
Can
you.
you?
Board members, yeah.
Sorry, I
Can
thought,
put that in there?
There are
It is,
attachments,
it's
but
not going
it's
through.
not linked.
It's
Yeah.
temporarily something.
Oh,
all right, so we will get that for the board. I apologize. I thought it was all one packet there.
There's got 4 links in, and none of them open.
you want
Pass
to
this.
pass that around?
But Corey's sharing it in Drive right now.
And
We had
then
it at one point, didn't we?
Is that all towns?
this is all the towns in
I
the
saw
state,
that online.
Okay.
and then Litchfield is highlighted in it. So
Kind of fascinating.
there's that money. Now that there will be a formula that will continue to allocate additional funds from what we've seen in the past, right? So that's the first category. The second category is one-time education infrastructure grants. And so the way I'm making sense of this is that, as you know, the state had infrastructure grants that we could apply for. You got to go through an application process and so forth. I think they've tried to simplify that by saying, here's money that you should be investing in your infrastructure. And that money is for Litchfield, $666,738. And that will come in FY21. So that's money that will be available to us next year. And we're going to need to make decisions about how to use that money and what infrastructure needs are, and how we would want to spend that. And remember, that's one time only. That is not, we're going to get money each year to help do improvements at the building. But as we do our capital planning, we should be factoring that into how we want to make plans going forward. Then there are one-time municipal infrastructure grants. And my sense of it is that that's money going to the town to help the town with municipal upgrades, which could be school, but not necessarily. And that's $64,415 in the current year. So that's unanticipated revenue for the town, and another $64,415 next year. So they can budget and plan how to spend that. So in total, when you add that up over this biennium, new money coming to the town of Litchfield totals $1,733,605. So that's unanticipated revenue that we need to figure out how to use or what to do with that money that's coming in.
I have a question. So the town's getting money?
Under
Did
the,
it- So what, does it have to do with schools? Do they have to use that 60-something thousand dollars like for the schools? Like, why would the town, like, to help with a sidewalk in front of GMS or, do you know what I mean? I don't know why the town would get money.
so I'm
Like
looking for,
sidewalk repairs or stuff, road repairs.
I'm looking for
Why
that category directly, and I'm not seeing it.
Municipal aid?
Yeah, I'm just curious what. Just curious.
Corey, did you, in the communication, I'm looking at Caitlin's communication from DOE.
Yeah.
And I'm not seeing here guidance on what they mean by that.
No, I hadn't seen anything either. You could reach out to
The town
clarify.
administrator touched on it the other night at the budget committee, really, stating that the town was getting that money directly. And And they were thinking about using it for infrastructure, so
Well, they
Their
have to use it,
infrastructure or our infrastructure?
theirs.
So let me try to find that out, Liz, because when I read, it's interesting because it's on this sheet from DOE.
Well, that's my, yeah,
Which-
what does it have to do with education? I don't know.
Good question.
I suspect that, it's a $20 million overall pool that's divided up among all the towns, right? So I suspect that it's because it was designated out of maybe like this might be the rainy day funds. And so they're saying some towns would have, oh, we need to replace that bridge or we need to repair that culvert or whatever. But other towns may say the biggest need is the school. We already have our budget. We weren't planning to have that money. So I'm not sure.
Okay, I was just curious why
Probably not
the
many
Department
towns,
of
huh?
Education is giving the town money.
And I don't see it in their.
Yeah, it's not in there. It's not in there. Like I thought there was gonna be a line that was gonna, and it doesn't spell. We'll get an answer on that.
Okay,
We'll get an answer.
So the total amount is how
Also
much
spelled
again?
municipal wrong.
1,733,000.
So
Is that right? Because I don't see that on the line anywhere.
the total amount,
What are we getting in unanticipated?
1,733,605.
Nowhere on that line.
It's nowhere
That's
on
why
the
we're
line.
Confused by
The
it.
highlighted yellow. That's why I'm trying to figure this out.
across, it doesn't equal up.
And then I just subtracted the last
Which sheet
two.
is that off of?
I subtracted
Isn't this a sheet?
V from W, which are the last two
Oh, I
columns, and it's
Where'd that come
800
from?
something.
$828,287.59.
But it's gotta be more than that if we're getting five. I don't know. Just kidding. Math's not my thing.
Who did that one come from, Mike? Was that from Caitlin as well?
The representatives,
NHSBA?
no, the state representatives. Well, Mr. Bohm and Mr. LaSalle brought that.
That's where this came from?
I didn't receive that.
But that explains why it has the town piece on it, because this,
Yeah.
didn't-
Okay,
okay. I apologize. I thought this came from the.
I had the adequacy.
You have, are
we'll take,
you looking at this chart?
so you
Yeah.
take 128,000 off.
So
of
those numbers different from these numbers?
that, 64.
The numbers are the same, but this just includes the
Oh, okay.
64
So
that the town is getting.
1.5.
So take off 128, 129. whatever.
Right.
Does it add up to take $129,000 off?
That'd be like 950. Well,
No, it'd be like 1.5.
Right.
Off of which number? The difference between the two?
oh yeah,
Or off the total 5.5 million?
total adequate education swept.
I have a summary
Maybe it's
sheet
the
in my
memo.
report. With the adequacy.
It's still off.
There's nothing. Yeah, there's nothing here that would have it around that. It'd be way above it or below it.
Well, what do you have for numbers for, like, the education money,
Well,
first part?
It's in my,
we reduced lunch. See, this is all broken down. That's why I was having trouble following around. None of these add up to what Mike was saying. We have base adequacy aid, free or reduced differential aid, special education differential aid, ELL differential aid, and then at the end, it has a $5 million number for grant, max pulmonary grant plus stabilization for, and then it says with no heading,
I have an
$820,287.
I have an increase for FY 21
That was a formula I added.
$924,000.
I just added that to try to figure out if that's what the total
About
was. It's me.
$925,000 for year one.
Which is the new ongoing funding.
Mhm.
But what about that infrastructure?
That's
grant?
in there. That's at about 150. Is what I have in here, 150 per year.
It says 666.
For infrastructure?
That's what he gave us.
All right, so
All right, we're
We-
gonna have to,
we need to check the source of this because
I want that, is the 120
I'm-
there.
I'm also looking, there's like towns missing off of this.
Whoops.
There were
Which-
towns that are getting nothing.
Oh, true.
Mm.
Oh,
Yeah, 'cause it's
maybe that's
based
why
on
they're
that.
missing.
On there?
Yeah.
Attleboro was getting nothing.
Oh, are they on the list as getting nothing?
no, if you're not getting anything, you're not included on any of the state lists.
All right.
So can we just get clarification Saturday?
Yep.
See how it is.
We,
We'll work
we
through it.
definitely
I
need
mean,
clarification.
We're
I'll
not
take a
spending the
look
money
at
tomorrow,
that.
so.
It could be
that?
the total.
We're not spending the money tomorrow.
Yeah,
but
I
you
don't-
guys
This is fine.
have no idea.
It can't be that.
Right. Right.
So I guess the thing the board has to wrestle with is, and what they were really clear about is we need to get advice from our legal department about how we want to proceed on it, because it's unanticipated revenue, which unless you do something with, it just goes for property tax relief. It just goes in the pool as, you know, you don't have to raise the money at the local level because it's coming from the state level. And that's why I want to know more about the infrastructure grant, because if it's intended to help us improve our buildings, we need to factor all that in.
Mm-hmm.
And the communication, honestly, is, you know, we're getting information from different sources. So when it finally came from Caitlin, I thought, okay, great, we've got it from DOE now. These are the numbers that they're going to work with. And so I apologize. I didn't realize that this was different.
I like those numbers better though.
I told you. That's why I was so excited. I read them out loud because they
Those are the
seemed
numbers
good.
that were presented to the budget committee by the representatives.
Really? So this came from the
Yeah.
reps
Yeah.
presenting.
They were
Okay.
at the meeting, and
Well-
Ralph spoken and presented the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll get
Figure it out.
clarification for Saturday on that.
We definitely will. And that is the end of my report. Those were my follow-up items from last time.
The only thing you have to let them know is because it's unanticipated revenue, we're hearing.
Yes,
Yeah, once we know what the number is.
if we decide to do something other than,
That'll bring us to school board comments. Saturday, anyone? Nina?
No. Nothing.
Liz?
I'm tired.
All right, I just have a couple of things, actually. One, I just wanted to make certain that, I know it's been brought up several times, we get little marquee signs everywhere. We have a special election coming up in a couple of weeks on the 29th, Tuesday, from 7 to 7. So please come out and vote. And before that, this Saturday, starting 8 o'clock here at this room, we are going to start discussing our budget section by section. So if the public has any input they'd like to provide or like to come and listen and see how the process goes as far as the budget, please come on down. And I believe the agenda is posted on Facebook.
Not yet.
It will be on our website also, as far as what we'll be doing first, whether it be GMS or rounds, that'll be out there. The other thing I want to do is just give a shout out to some of our high school sports teams that are doing extremely well. Our soccer team, boys and girls, and our football team, I believe is undefeated still.
No, they lost
They lost.
in overtime last week.
That doesn't count.
Yeah, no,
Overtime.
that will pretend that didn't happen.
But all the teams are doing excellent.
Soccer is still undefeated.
The girls aren't. They've
Boys
lost
are.
one.
They tied one.
One or
That's
two.
still undefeated in my book.
Right. But they're all doing extremely well, and I think they'll all go very far in the playoffs. So congratulations to all of them. And that's all I have. So that'll bring us community forum. You are. Nothing wrong with that.
All right. I'll make it short so we're not here a long time. My name's Marsha Finnegan, 147 Talent. Scott, you made a good point I think it was last meeting or the meeting before about, Robert, excuse
Oh,
me,
that's fine.
Robert. I'm thinking of the wrong person. That the school board wastes a lot of time on petty things, that they should get moving. And I feel that there is a lot of time taken up by just talking about things that should be the principal's job. That, for example, I think it was on 9/18, I'm not positive, when Scott was not here, the principal, you guys were talking about lunches and the times. Now, I don't know if you realized it, but I timed it. You spent about 50 minutes saying, well, what if this? What if that? Now, this could have been all just pushed aside. You knew that Scott was coming in the next meeting and asked him the general questions. So that's just one of my examples. And this is, I'll probably get yelled at, but there was a comment made, if the kids don't even know how to open their milk cartons, what does that have to do with the school board? So that's one thing that I wanted to mention. I think you guys have to trust the principals and let them make decisions. I know at the high school, the principal is in meetings after meetings after meetings, just preparing for you guys, I think it was. And we can't even, as workers, get in to see him because he's so busy. So give everyone back their power and take away your power a little bit. The next thing was on Miss Gaspar, when she was in on I think it was the 10-2 meeting. She had the senior New York trip that she wanted to present, and it was told to her she cannot present it because nothing was given to her the week before, because you have to go over it, which is fine. But I think being a small school, you as a school board, or someone as a school board, one person, could have spoken up and said, hey, listen, do you have your presentation with you? If you do, why don't we look at it? We don't have to discuss it right now, but let's just take a look at it. And so when you come back on tonight's meeting, she would be here. There'd be a lot of happy seniors in the school. And I don't know if she has met with you. The last thing I have it on my phone. I don't want to pull it up. It sounded like you were saying that, this is general, not quoting, that fine, just get in touch with me the next day. We'll have a meeting. You'll be able to present it tonight. I don't know. Has she had that meeting?
So I actually was away, so I delegated it back to the principal, did exactly what you're
Okay,
asking for. And so I said, really, it's a senior trip.
right.
So it should come through the building principal. When you are comfortable with it,
Mm-hmm.
bring it forward. And it is not yet ready to come forward. So,
It was a
We're still-
Boston trip, not a New York
Right.
trip.
right, so
It's
we're
a new
still,
trip.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
the senior trip,
Yeah.
instead of going to Disney or wherever they like to go, I'm not sure, but
Yep.
yeah,
so it's in the hands, I mean, really, the high school principal should be the one
right.
forward with it. So Mike.
And
is
no
working-
offense, but I don't think that it ought to be in your hands right now. He ought to say, yes, let's do it.
Yeah.
And this is a plan, and you say, okay.
That's exactly
All
how we've
right.
done it.
So if the principal has seen her plan, I guess that next step hasn't been made.
So here's the reason, the plan is incomplete and there are a lot of gaps in the plan. And a
Right,
lot of questions that need to be answered. So he has seen it. He's asked for clarification on several points. So,
okay,
yeah, so we're waiting for a complete plan to be
okay.
brought forward.
But now she had said that she can't get a complete plan until you guys give it a go-ahead. Then she can get the dates, the times, the money, everything. And now I don't know what questions you have.
As a school board member, I think those would be my questions.
What's that?
Yeah.
As a school board member, I think those would be my questions. How much is it? How it's,
Right.
so it's,
Right, so,
again, this is one
I'm certain there'll
I'm,
be a lot of questions once she presents the information.
right. So I think that she has to get some kind of, yes, go ahead, get the info. We're interested in it. Let's go for it.
Right, but it's not for school board approval to okay a trip that we don't have the details on. That's just not how we plan any field trips or anything
I
like
realize
that.
that, but it sounded like she had all the details.
She didn't have any of the details.
She
Marsha.
didn't.
No,
That's
she
the
did
problem.
not.
Okay, all right, so
To-
I
to-
didn't
to be
see
clear-
it. I was
To be
going by
clear,
what I
there
saw.
was a dollar amount.
Yep.
And there was a very sketchy description of how that was going to be used. And there were a ton of questions that popped up. And so she's been asked to clarify those. And so
Okay.
as soon as she has a coherent plan that matches out how this will occur, that will be brought forward by the high school principal.
Yeah.
And then the board will have a coherent plan to consider.
Can
Okay.
we end the Boston trip right now? Because right now you are going against what you started the conversation about. That we're sitting here hashing out something that someone else is gonna present, hasn't presented yet we're spending and wasting time on it.
No, because it's public forum.
Yeah.
It's not,
Well, that
But
was
there's also
public, our
time limits.
discussion about the lunches was also public
Right.
forum.
I'm not taking up 50 minutes on it.
Mrs. Isbicki came and spoke and it really, I took it to heart what she said, that just got out of hand. And I know a few of us, she got through to this thick skull.
We just remembered that
Yes.
that's not our role. and-
Because I don't like going home at 11 o'clock. I have to
No,
be up
no.
tomorrow at 5:30.
Exactly. Well, that's it for that. But one thing, Mike, I hate to say it, but if I was on the school board, I would have said no on your raise. I just want to say that.
I appreciate that,
You
but
know.
you probably know more if you were on the board too. so.
Yeah. Okay, thank
Can
you.
I just,
Yes.
if I came across as I thought they were petty, I just want to clarify. I didn't think,
Well, no,
I didn't think the
petty isn't
concern-
word.
I just wanted to
It was more
clarify.
like, let's get going.
because I know
here.
sometimes I can talk off my cuff.
No,
So
no,
if
no,
I
you
did say
didn't-
that, I didn't.
No,
You didn't say that word. It was just that you were comparing other school boards. You know, they spend an hour.
I just wanted to clarify that.
No. No.
And
I
we
agree.
learned from that. I learned from that, and I'm sure we all kind of took it to heart.
Yeah.
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 I promise.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No one else for public forum?
I don't know if this is the time. I did find right after we were talking about flags, you can fly 3, but government buildings and military installations can't fly 3 on the same. So I don't know if we're included in that. So
Unless the
it's-
flags come all the way down to the ground.
I know,
Specifically says
right.
corporations, and it gives
Must be a
the order.
huge
It has to go
flagpole.
it has to go federal, MIA if they're, then state, and any other under that. So, but it does say
To know.
government buildings and military
Something every
installations
day.
cannot fly 3 on.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Just so we know.
Sorry. So I want to just backtrack on one thing if I can. I want to go back to school board comments because I want to ask a question of clarification, Rob, because you were at the budget meeting. That I know the town presented that they want to, or it's in their budget, to put on another full-time maintenance person.
Full-time maintenance,
Highway.
highway, yes.
Okay. I don't recall hearing anyone on the budget committee saying it has to be a warrant.
Yes.
I think it was brought up,
It was
but,
Jen.
but,
It was Jen.
yeah,
She
Okay.
brought- she
Troy-
brought forth saying there was no cost
Yeah.
on that petition article last year, and why wouldn't they put this on a warrant?
and didn't Troy's, just if I'm putting them all together, wasn't Troy's argument back to that study that was done that
It
recommended?
was in conjunction with.
And he said the people, his stance is the people of the town, by approving the findings of the study.
Right, the study's like
It was
5
like-
years out of date right now.
Well, no, wasn't that done just last
It
year?
was last year.
Last year.
Oh, so it's
This
not.
was just
not
on
a
the
town
highway.
plan.
Just for the highway department. I believe his argument was the town said they supported the
Okay,
study.
I guess I'm just looking for clarification, if you can even ask the budget committee. Are they going to require them to put it on a warrant article?
Because
As they
it's a new
require us to-
position.
They had the discussion. I know Troy pushed back hard against it, but I don't know what the outcome's gonna be when they vote, but Troy, I mean,
I'm just asking.
can I give my personal opinion?
Yeah.
I mean, I thought Troy's argument made sense, that they had personally, they funded it last year, the town voted for it.
I understand there's a gentleman's agreement with the budget committee. and-
And I understand
As far as I know,
that.
doesn't it also entail the town
What's that?
No,
as far as any
I
full-time
think that
position?
advisory
just
warrant
schools?
was just.
I
just
think
the schools.
Troy's argument was, well, not this argument, his explanation
His
was
explanation.
because it was a petition article brought forth and supported overwhelmingly, and Board of Selectmen can hire. That was the rationale. And plus it was recommended in the MRI report.
And I don't think it wasn't, did you say custodian or maintenance?
Highway.
No, it was
Highway
highway laborer,
position. So
yeah.
I heard custodian, that's why I looked confused. I thought I heard
It's highway
custodian.
laborer.
It was highway labor they're talking about.
Yeah.
But Troy was just very adamant that there was overwhelming support, and he had the numbers right at hand.
But if you can just ask the budget chair, I'm just curious as to
And I
whether or
think
not.
she did, I don't think it was just Jen. I think there were a few people that brought up, they thought it should be a warrant.
Yeah, Jen brought it up first and then Kerry, of course.
Carrie,
Yeah.
Carrie fought on.
She said she
And
would.
Troy strenuously disagreed with it.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, that's his fight, I understand.
Can I just have a school board comment? I know it's not my turn. Speaking of the highway department, did our maintenance people trim the front of GMS where the fence is, or did the town do that? You know, The town did that?
Schools did that.
No, we did that.
You did that? Yeah, because it was getting crazy overgrown. That must be terrible hard work.
So Brian, just to clarify,
Yeah.
you want me, I'm gonna ask, is the budget committee looking for a warrant?
Yeah.
For that position? That's,
It's a new position, it's a new
Yep.
full-time
I just want to
position.
make
I
sure I'm asking the
understand
right thing.
that it wasn't a warrant article the last time around anyway, right?
It was an advisory.
It
one.
was, no,
Just an
it
advisory.
was an advisory, but I thought it was a warrant, it was under the warrants. right?
Petition.
It was
It's
a
a petition
petition
warrant,
warrant,
right.
right, which is just
Which is-
advisory.
And I just don't know if they fall in the same categories as we do, because I know they put on another full-time employee last year without the budget committee knowing, so I'm just curious.
So can I ask for clarification from the board? Personally agreed with Troy's argument, so I would have voted for the position. Did the board want me to vote against?
No, I'm just curious where they stand, because I mean, we can give an argument for the different positions also,
Yeah.
full-time positions.
I just want to make sure there wasn't,
But we're required by the budget committee that we put on a warrant article. So I'm just like to know if the, but.
there was a pretty lengthy debate on it.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to general business. We have public minutes from October 2nd, 2019 for approval.
Make a motion to approve the October 2nd, 2019 minutes.
I'll second as long as Michelle didn't call me Mr. Harrison again.
I got it right on the second one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there
I'll
any
second
discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
I
Opposed, abstained. Budget transfers we're gonna push off until next time. So that'll bring us to curriculum.
Excellent. So I just want to start by highlighting a couple things on my curriculum report. The first being where we are at with our curriculum writing and revision process. Just to update, K-8 ELA and social studies began over the summer and are in really good shape. I believe that the middle school ELA specifically is almost done with their first draft. I met with the high school humanities group yesterday to go over the process and start the discussion there. So they are beginning the work. Math, I met with them last week, the high school math. We have those documents starting to go through PERC. We brought some through today. They should be up and approved through PERC to be able to come to the board meeting at the beginning of November. They just needed a little bit more cleanup. And the K-8 math group, we met in August to go over how to read and use the documents, because the teachers that, especially at the elementary level, there was one rep per grade level. So not everybody was part of the writing process for the math specifically. And we've started a lot of conversation and some documents around supporting resources and had some very, very good conversation looking at program versus resources, which is an important discussion for us to be having, that now that we have these articulated curriculum documents, we need to be using our program as a resource and not as the curriculum. So they've really been proactive in creating some lists of resources that teachers are using to support that work. And I'm very excited to continue that with them. And the other thing I wanted to highlight from the update was our new teacher orientation. In part because I want to give a public shout out to our tour guides. We had a great 2 days. We expanded it from 1 day to 2 days this year. And the feedback that we got initially was that it really made it a lot less like pressure. Yes, last year it felt very rushed. We were trying to get a lot of nuts and bolts together very quickly for new staff. So breaking it up over 2 days seemed to the feedback was very positive around that. And the other piece that we added that they loved was the bus tour of town.
It's a great idea.
You know, and
That's awesome.
touring the other buildings, because we know that it's not that often that the high school teachers are down at GMS or the GMS staff is at LMS, so on and so forth. So that they absolutely loved. And I really wanted to give a public shout out to Trevor and Tyler Scopolides. I hope I didn't butcher that.
That's it.
Sorry.
You got it.
They were awesome. They did such a great job as tour guides and interacted just so well with the new teachers. So it was great.
It's a great little concept. So you just go like through town, like different,
Yeah. Yeah. We just
Yeah.
went through a bunch of the
small
the-
enough town to like, just show them a
Yeah.
little bit of it.
Yep. So we went all around town and then
Stop at Licks.
and we stopped at each building.
I picture them on one of those big double-decker buses
Yeah.
waving.
It was also a really informal way for the new teachers to get to interact with one another too, which
Yeah.
was
I can't
very
believe you
nice.
got it done in one day. That, I think it's awesome. You spread it out over 2 days.
I think if you want the real feel of the town next year, if you do this again, go to Wilson, see if you can get their trailer.
Great idea.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Down to the pumpkin patch.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
idea.
The hayride tour.
Very good. So the other thing that I wanted to bring forward was we've talked in general overview about the work that we did this summer, but some questions came up as to specific. So my original plan was to have a presentation from teachers on our math, what we're doing with some of our math programming, but felt that we would do a better job if we put that off to the December meeting because we're all 3 levels. And I thank Tara for her follow-up questions. This kind of sparked this. And so I'm just going to go through quickly. It's just a few slides, but there's a ton through it. I'm not going to go through all of it, but I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to see some of the training that we've been doing with staff, to see some of the information that we walked away with from some of the work that we did this summer. So the first thing that we did in the summer was our Live to Learn Academy. And we've talked a lot about that. It was just a fantastic week. And what you have hyperlinked in here are the different breakdowns of the stages of the curriculum writing. So, for the summer, the ELA and social studies teachers were getting ready to start this stage 1 writing. So I hope this hyperlinks in right. So you'll see, and you guys can go through these on your own.
It should be
Really, what is this work? What is UBD? Really just giving the nuts and bolts of. And some of this we've actually seen in the presentation that I did to the
Yeah,
board early last year.
Yeah.
So the other piece that we did with the, when I talked about working with the K-8 teachers in August, this really wasn't part of Live to Learn Academy, but I put it in here as well because we did this more on an individual basis, is looking at how to read the documents and what the different parts are and where they are. And so this, as our documents show up publicly more, this is an important piece for everybody to understand. What are the different pieces and where do they sit in the documents? So you can go through that. You can see it. Each area has a little description of what it is, and then this is actually one of our units with where those particular parts would be highlighted in the document. And then the third part of the curriculum portion of the Live to Learn Academy was to begin the stage 2 writing, which is our assessment planning. And our big focus there was looking at performance assessments and starting to train teachers on what performance assessments are, what they aren't, what the different characteristics are. And we have some examples and looking at how do they differ from other assessments. And one of the things that we stress with this is that the idea of performance assessments really are key to our competency-based work, but it's not all we will be doing for assessments. There still is the need for those content-focused assessments and things of that nature, but this is one of the types of assessments that, as we're doing the stage 2 planning, we will be looking at. The other piece that we did during that week was work around our tech tools. And just to give you an idea of some of the things we did, we had Teresa Planny came in and did a workshop on Google Classroom. We had some CAMI training. We had Smart Tool training. Jason and Brendan did work on HB 1612 to share that information with our staff ahead of back to school. And Andrea did. We had Learn with Stern sessions where she
That's awesome.
she helped teachers answer their specific questions around Infinite Campus. So one of the other things that we did this summer was really have a focus on data, and we began some work with Demonstrated Success, which is a group that sponsors Performance Plus, which is a data tracker, and they do a lot of work with the DOE. They actually branched off from the DOE. So what you have linked in here are some of the agendas and some of the information that we either created or came up with. So Karen Matzo from Demonstrated Success came in and really helped us look at different ways to different data review protocols, what the purposes of PLCs are, and helped the teachers and admin around the table get a better feel for how we can shore up our processes and our procedures to be making our data review much more meaningful.
How often do they have PLC meetings?
We have a goal this year of once a week
Wow.
where they are
Awesome.
specifically looking at data
Per team?
per team.
It's like the third grade team or maybe the
Yep. Yep.
Oh, wow.
And that is one of the things that came out of this work. So we did, as part of our data camp, we came up with some common norms and procedures specifically for the data teams, the building data teams in the district data team. And from this, I can tell you, we've used these and modified them in other committees so that
Oh, good.
our norms and procedures are pretty consistent. I know they're using them in the different building PLCs to some degree, that again, modified for the purpose, but
Just want a definition of data review. Is the data that we're talking about assessment? Everything.
it's really
Okay.
what we've asked each individual PLC to do is to set a data goal. So for example, the 5th grade team wanted their goal to be around raising their math scores, they would look at and really dig into that math data from starting with SAS,
Determine
looking
their
at
benchmark numbers and where-
Yeah.
Do they all give the same math tests? A lot of them do.
Well, in
Each
5th
teacher.
grade, it's one math
Yeah, it's
teacher.
one
Right.
it's one teacher. So, but they may along the way make a second goal and decide we're seeing a spike in behavioral issues, so we want to look at behavior data and things. So there's a lot of data that can be looked at, but the key to this really was to find something and set a goal around it so that it's being revisited and not just, hey, today we're going to look at SAS data and next week we're going to look at library book data, whatever it might be, and that we're jumping around. So each team was asked to set a specific goal for their data processes this year. And actually, I believe we asked for 2.
I love the norms.
The norms have been, I think that they're really important to our committee work across the board. So I know we revised them, and Tara, you were part of that discussion yesterday. We revised them for our grading and reporting committee yesterday, and
PERC
we
today.
did for PERC today. So
Do you get to go to PLC meetings?
I
Every
will.
once in a while, yeah. I was just
I
curious.
will. I haven't yet. I wanted them to be able to get them kind
Yeah.
of up and running, but I
That's great.
definitely,
Pop in.
I actually am going to one next week.
Ooh.
The GMS Unified Arts PLC asked me to come in to
Great.
help them with their goal. So, the other piece that was really important training for us and will be important training for the teachers is how to look at the data. So that's a really hard, data is intimidating for a lot of people. And so what to do with it and not just go, okay, what is this telling us? We really looked at a specific data review protocol. We modified it again to meet the needs of our district, but we walked through the process as a data camp this summer. And then later on in late September, we took a team of teachers to a training through Demonstrated Success, which was mirrored our data camp, but they felt it was a good review and would help solidify their understanding of it so that they could help train their building level staff as well as they're going through this. And the last thing here was actually what we came up with in that training in September through Demonstrated Success, so that you can see what our district team did, and we brought it to the building admin as well. We created a goal that school district will implement district-wide PLC model analyzing data for a minimum of 20 minutes a week is tracked through PLC logs. Our goal was 30. Our goal was 30 minutes. The feedback came that in some areas that was going to be unmanageable, unmeetable, because they only have a 30-minute block together. So by the time the kids move, they escort the kids to lunch, it's 25 minutes. So we were setting them up to not be able to meet it consistently. So we'll start with 20 minutes and we'll continue to monitor that. 20 minutes weekly is a step in the right direction. But we have a common log. Each PLC has been asked to keep their notes in this log, track whether or not they are actually meeting the district goal and whether or not they're meeting their own team goals. And we have access to these so that building principals can check in and there is an accountability. That was really important. The teachers that we took to this training in September felt it was really important that the building admin and district-wide that we were holding PLCs accountable for doing this work. So I thought that was very proactive there.
Yeah.
So the last big thing that we did this summer.
So excited. I'm sorry, I'm geeking out over here. I'm really excited about this.
It is exciting. I mean, I think parents know that one-to-one with all of their kids, we try to, our goal is to improve their performance. But I think a lot of parents probably don't realize that this is looking at the bigger picture, trying to raise everybody.
Right.
There's
And
always
I think
stuff
it's
going
so
on behind the
important.
scenes that parents don't know about.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think I'm so glad you brought this tonight because I do think that it's.
Yeah, I think as we roll out and as we progress on this, I think parent education is going to be crucial, especially shifting focus beyond the grades.
That's the way it's going.
That's kind of, we get a weekly, we get an update every time an assignment is graded. Oh, good, she's got a B now. Oh no, she's got an A+ now. But moving beyond that into are they able to learn on their own, and is it child-centered learning? Is that really what we're doing here? I think I'm geeking out now. I'll stop.
And and we'll touch on this a little bit in this part, but that has been a recurring conversation for our groups that have been meeting, looking at this is really, I keep coming back to how are we building capacity with all of our stakeholders, not just the teachers, not just the students. It has to be the community, the parents. We all have to build an understanding of what this looks like.
Yeah.
So the last thing that not the last thing, but one of the major things we did this summer as well was the Competency Design Studio. It was cut to a single day this year. So as a district, we did a follow-up day. So the workshop was on Thursday and we did a district day on Friday so that we really could unpack and start making some steps forward. So the real goal and my goal in wanting to bring a team to this, and we had 26 staff members that attended. it really was to start to build capacity around what is competency-based education, because we hear the term across the state in different, but if you look, different schools do things differently, different districts take different interpretations. And so it's not, there isn't one, this is what it is, this is what it has to look like in every school district across the state. So we have to really understand what it is so that we can start to take a look at how's it going to look in Litchfield. Because it's not going to look the same in Litchfield as it does everywhere else. And that's just the reality of what competency-based education is, and the fact that New Hampshire's all local control. So what I linked in here is the program for this past summer's design studio. So you can look through, there's the schedule, there's the list of breakout sessions. You can get to the full program to see the kinds of things that were offered for teachers to go to. And we really, within our school buildings, we asked each grade level to, or each level, elementary, middle, and high, to break out, to divide and conquer. So we didn't have everybody going to one session. And again, as with anything like this, there were some sessions that were fantastic. There were some that people walked away going, yeah, that wasn't what we hoped it would be. I didn't walk away with what I thought I would there, and run into that. I also linked up a number of the topics in the presentations that were shared with us. So we looked at topics such as grading, and that's always a huge discussion at these type of workshops and studios, is what does the grading look like? And again, district to district, sometimes even building to building, it looks different. So I linked up one of the presentations that we heard on grading, focused learning time, which is sort of an enrichment RTI type program, and some work around multiple pathways to success that different buildings or that different districts are doing. So just to give you a little bit of a flavor of some of the things that we heard. And then the last piece here, which I actually put in the update as well, is this is what we did on the follow-up day. And this was really, I think, one of the most impactful things that we as a district got out of this, is we did it as individual building teams, and then we came together as a district to look at what these things, where we were at in each building, but then where were we as a district around the 5 tenets of competency-based learning. The idea of students move on when ready, that competencies include explicit, measurable, transferable learning objectives that empower students, that assessment is meaningful, that students receive differentiated support, and that learning outcomes measure both academic skills and disposition. So when we talk about our work study practices as well as the academic competencies. So we did a lot of work and had a lot of discussion around what these look like, or where we are at in the different buildings. And the honest truth is, for most of these pieces, we were in initiating or developing. And what we talked about specifically when we had our debrief, and this took, I'll be honest, this took the day. This took that Friday. We looked at the things we have that we are doing well under those tenets, and where we felt our entry point for movement was. So really good discussion. That group has decided that they will meet probably quarterly this year to assess and look at how all the different pieces that we have going on. We have the grading and reporting committee, and we have our PD committee, and all of these other groups of the data and all of that. How are all of them is fitting together to drive us ahead in competency-based education? So
You're doing a great job.
Thank you. So when the goals are established for each grade, will those be made public or will they be made available to the board?
The data goals.
The data goals, yeah.
We,
Just curious.
well, we,
So it'd be interesting to know what the focus
Right.
area is.
Right.
Areas.
I definitely think that that's a discussion that we can bring to our admin team, but I think we'll see it filter through our district data team. And then that absolutely, that information becomes public too. Any other questions?
Keep up the good work.
Wow.
There's a lot here.
Yeah.
I put a ton in here.
But
and I,
every school district is struggling with competencies and IPs and Ps and
absolutely.
it's, yeah.
Absolutely. And you know, there
Yeah.
again, it goes back to there isn't one blueprint that works everywhere.
Right.
And so there's a lot of learning to be done. There's a lot of growing pains around it. And you know, I am a firm believer that, you know, I don't want to put the cart before the horse. I want to make sure that when we are ready to say, let's go, that
We're there.
we know what we're doing
Yeah.
and that we're not going to have to go back and backtrack. And because I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen in other districts where they get going too fast and then end up having to redo.
Just for next time, can we get like a cheat sheet for all the TLAs, which are the 3-letter acronyms?
Yes.
There's a lot of them in
So
curriculum development.
what I tried to do is if I like CBE,
Mhm.
I had it up above so that I would
Competency-based
so that you
education.
would
Oh, I see.
it there.
All right.
I try to
I appreciate
not
that.
use, but some of the things that link in will without.
There's a lot more lingo than when we were in the classroom.
And it was just IEP.
Yeah.
But absolutely, I try and
Thank you.
I try and be aware of that as
Yeah,
I'm going
yeah.
through.
Just when I think I've got them all, you throw another couple in there.
Well, even this, I use
Yeah.
CBE, competency-based education.
Right.
Some of the other forums used competency-based learning. So they
Learn
call it
CBL. Right.
We call it
Um,
CBL in my district.
Yeah. And then I saw the FLT. I looked at that and the focused learning time.
Yep.
We decided to go with that. That's a whole other one. So
IDK.
yeah, exactly. LOL.
I had to whisper to Rob, like, what's this mean?
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Anything else, Mary?
I just think it sounds like a really inclusive process that puts our teachers at the center of making the strategic decisions about where we're headed, which I just think is fabulous. And I'm sure that they appreciate it and
It's really
want to be
important.
there.
It's really important. This isn't work that can be done without the teacher.
Mhm.
Right, and you have a big group right now, so you got a good buy-in already as far as who's formulating this.
Yeah, and I'll say this, I was blown away by the involvement this summer with, I mean, those groups were really impressive. The fact that we had 45 different people come to some piece, if not all of the Live to Learn Academy. You know, we had, our data camp was a little bit smaller, but that was really targeted. We wanted to focus the training with the admin and teacher leaders around data so that it could be rolled out almost like a train the trainer kind of model. And then,
So Matt,
20
you wanted vacation?
to have 26 teachers that
That's
wanted
amazing.
to come to.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that I had, we registered 26 and I had 2 that were like waitlisted. And we had 2 people that at the last minute, one had left the district and another one had a family emergency. So I was able to get those other 2 teachers in.
It's nice to see how many teachers are with us on that pathway to excellence and really want to improve
Yes.
what themselves as teachers, but also what we're doing, what our mission is. So it's
It is giving
It's
something
really
up
great
with your
stuff.
summer break.
Absolutely.
It does take a lot
Yeah.
Absolutely.
when you recharge.
I know.
It's great.
Very, thank you.
Yes, thank you. So that brings us to the DA report.
As part of my report, I want to give an update on the status of some of the projects that the school board approved use of unassigned funds at the end of last year. Some highlights of that: things we've completed the CHS track, which was getting into a bit of a rough shape after no maintenance for several years. That was resprayed and relined. Something that we'll have to consider doing every about 5 years in order to keep it up so that it lasts a long time and won't have to be replaced. The district purchased a dump truck and a utility van to replace the pickup truck that's on its last legs. The pickup truck is still in use, but it will not pass inspection again, and we won't be planning on sinking any more money into it. So we'll let that truck go.
Are you gonna keep that and just use it like at one school, just
We probably
Go
could.
ahead.
We probably could just keep it on
I'm
one
just-
property.
like a little transport? I would think
Could
high
be.
school, you could probably utilize it.
Yep. There's some money left in that encumbrance where we're going to look at doing some district branding on those trucks because the utility van is white, doesn't really look like much. The dump truck that we have is consistent coloring with the other vehicle that we have. Yeah.
Brian,
Yeah.
just to ask, is there any liability if we had like an unregistered vehicle that was to cause an
It's on
accident?
private ground.
But-
It's like have a farm truck on it.
No, I understand, but is there liability for the school?
We have to look into that.
Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't have brakes.
No, but I'm just saying, if the worst case scenario was to happen, are we then
Right.
liable if it's not registered?
Where he stands in the bed, I think he'll be all right. Anyway,
Sorry.
Any ideas?
we the weight room floor was finally replaced,
Looks
so it
awesome.
looks great.
Does
I
it?
finally had a chance to go down and look at it.
See it.
Some of the pending items, the dark room ventilation system for the art room was in the projects. That's been scheduled to be done in December. New access control system, that's almost done. And the intercom system in both GMS and LMS will be fixed to be more like what we have at the high school, which is an all-call system through the phones. So it'll be better for security. We did pass on doing the LMS heating repairs at this time due to the capital putting $25,000 into a heating project that we might end up reworking somewhere down the line. Just didn't seem worth it, so we put that on hold and we passed on it for now. I have provided a snapshot of the general fund financial statements as of the 11th. So that's in some of the paperwork you have down below. At this point in time, and it's still up for a little bit of reconciliation between sometimes there's some too many days are attached to a contract and pay rates, and it makes pay rates a little funky. So there's still a little bit of reconciliation that has to go in there, but 97% of the appropriated budget for this year has been either spent or encumbered through either vendor contract or teacher's contract. So
Is that normal?
yeah, it's
No,
usually, and a lot of them are blanket type
Yeah.
purchase orders that go across the year, and all the teachers' contracts are in there and encumbered for the full year.
Great.
So a lot of those items are already in there. I also put in just a sheet. The last meeting I had brought the state revenue, which from prior discussion, we're going to take a little more look at, just having varying numbers on different things that we've received. So I'm going to take another look at that tomorrow. Hopefully by Saturday, I should have something for you. Just something that's not in my report that I just wanted to mention. Ongoing issues with the software upgrade led us to the personnel budget is well behind right now. So we were finally able to get a fix into the system today in order we're going to be able to run it tomorrow. Best case scenario is the end of the day tomorrow. I can have digital versions of the
Payroll.
budget ready.
Oh, I see.
Printing books at this point, having books ready to go out to you guys by the end of tomorrow is probably going to be difficult, but digital copy we'll be able to have, and we could probably have hard copy books ready for Saturday.
But digital will have,
Digital you should have by the end of the day.
They're not gonna be sideways though.
Yeah, please don't make them
No,
sideways.
I'll put
Right.
them in. Like you flip in so they're not
I
side.
mean, digital might actually be good in some ways. We could potentially put comments on them, right?
Yeah.
If we have
I like paper.
I like
I do too,
paper.
especially for
for the budget.
budget.
Yeah.
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 I like to mark it up with my
Yeah.
Post-its.
So Me and Holly will be working
Kind of put them
on,
on the screen and you can't see.
Yeah.
me and Holly will be working on finalizing that tomorrow and be able to get that out by the end of the day.
Thank you.
And just to share with the board, I mean, the upgrade in e-finance has actually contributed across the board with issues. So leave requests and, making sure payroll is done correctly because there's not communication going on with Time Clock Plus. So the staff have really been putting a tremendous amount of time into trying to get this done. And I spoke with the manager of our project, our upgrade, and I told him he failed. I said, your company has failed us because of the way this has gone out. And he admitted that. I said, unless you can tell me where somebody on our end has made a mistake. And he said, I see no mistakes made on your end. It's all on our end, and I apologize. So he gave me a cell number. He said, any issue that goes on, call us. Corey now has that. So we're making progress, but I think you went live on September 3rd, right? And here we are still struggling our way through it. So
And
please
even
understand that we're doing the
Colleen
best we
was on
can.
Her third payroll on the system, and she was at work last night until almost 7 o'clock to get payroll done. So it's just, it's been a challenge for sure.
So can we recapture some of our financial losses here?
It's worth talking to them because
Hmm.
for what they charge us, this should not be.
Mhm.
And they charge us for the upgrade on top of what we regularly pay, which is we pay them a good $30,000 a year for hosting services. And for the upgrade, I think they charge us another 10 on top of that. So
And then it costs us
And then it
probably
costs
another
problems.
$5,000.
yeah, an additional work time and things that we should be working on, like budget,
Hmm.
trying to get the system working.
Job harder instead of easy.
Exactly.
Uh,
So we consider maybe a change going forward with this company.
I don't know.
Trying to get through.
There's so much. There's so
Kind of
much.
frying pan fire
Yeah.
and fire. You
Yeah.
jump out of one situation and it's like,
Everything has its quirks, and I mean, then if you go to a completely different system, you're looking at learning curve.
Mhm.
I mean, this
Yeah.
was an upgrade. It's not substantially different from what we were using before. It looks a bit different, but functionality is basically the same. And most of the folks here have been working on this particular system for many years. They're very familiar with it.
I probably inquire then as far as some type of compensation for
Yeah.
not only the struggles we've gone through, but also the
Yeah.
cost.
Yep.
Well,
that
and,
have
and
incurred.
also, I mean, a refund of the cost to upgrade
Yeah.
would make a lot of sense.
I can reach out to them for sure.
It's like when your phone upgrades and you wish it hadn't.
Right.
Ugh.
Exactly.
yep, doing that right now.
Anything else, Corey? All right, thank you, Corey.
Yep.
So next we have the 2019-20 tuition rates.
so you can see the tuition rate sheet, and for comparison, you can see the amounts that were approved last year. So actually, it's almost like all the figures kind of came to the center, if you would. So, Corey, do you have an explanation as to why you think that is? I mean, is it better detail reporting or just?
Yeah, probably different ways they have us report school
Oh,
level.
It's middle school, like we really want to.
But they're all about the same. I thought that was an average, to be honest with you.
I did
I
too,
thought that
yeah.
was odd that they were all the same when I looked
I
at
think
it.
But wouldn't that
past
be-
years it's been heavier in the
Elementary school
elementary school.
and really
yeah.
low at LMS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be a
Right.
case of the
Yeah.
numbers shifting though?
Oh, there it is, right there,
Yeah,
yeah.
big-
And you get both.
what's shifting?
The number of
Right,
students per
kindergarten,
school shifting
Yeah.
should adjust the numbers because
Right.
you're dividing by a different number. So.
True.
I mean, the variance isn't really that.
No, but I'm just saying, because aren't the low numbers starting to hit the high school now? So
No, not yet.
I had, or
No.
They're working their way up there.
Yeah.
High school stayed about level.
Same.
Yeah, almost. The 8th grade class coming in was almost as big as,
Exactly, like within a couple kids.
it's going to be 2 years before it hits up there. Current 7th grade, once I go up.
do we have to
that's small.
approve? Do we have to approve this, or is this just
Yes.
for?
Yeah.
So I'll make the motion. Oh, do you want to say something? Or?
I was just going to ask about the prior to acceptance paragraph. Is that standard? And does that apply to just Litchfield, or do other districts do that too?
This paragraph.
This is pretty standard for all districts.
Okay, so special education class, if someone is tuitioned in, they're paid by the sending
Sending
district.
district.
Correct.
So So I'll make a motion to accept the proposed tuition. Would it be proposed if we're accepting it?
Yep.
The proposed tuition rates for 2019-20.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, abstained, 500.
Could you right on time?
This is in
Hey,
practice.
Michelle, before I forget, we have a meeting on the 4th, right? 4th of December, I'm sorry.
December 4th?
Yes.
Because we have it
School
listed
board
as
meeting.
December 5th on the bottom of,
Oh,
yeah. I didn't know if we skipped the 4th and just went to the presentations on the 5th. I think I can change it. Do
No, that's a typo.
you want me to change it? I think,
Sorry.
It'll be changed on the next one.
So this will bring us to second reading of EFAA, food service meal charging policy.
Did you make any changes to it? It's the
I
same.
did not make any changes that were, you got the changes at the last
Mhm.
meeting, but, the board did not recommend any other revisions, so. Like it.
Straightforward, to the point. I see that face, Brian.
do we approve it again or does it just become?
The second reading.
So I'll make a motion to approve the food service. Oh, I'm sorry, policy goes EFAA.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
500. Then we go to JECB, tuition policy. It's the first read.
This is a second.
Says
Second
second.
reading.
Yeah.
That's the first.
No,
It says second on it. Yeah.
We had this at the last meeting also, and remember, this is to reconcile, so the tuition rates that you just approved in the past,
Right.
they sort of were cross-referenced, so now we're cleaning all that up and making sure that we're clear on where everything resides.
Is there a motion on JECB?
I'll make a motion to approve policy JECB.
I second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
500. Then we go to policy JICA, dress code update.
So just to have the board understand, so we're going to put a committee together. The committee is going to involve staff and students and community members, and it's to take a look at revising the dress code policy. I asked Michelle to mock up. Everybody seemed to like what they were seeing from Roanoke, Virginia.
Mhm.
And so I said, let's put it into policy form. So when we go to the committee, we have something to compare to, and then we can make tweaks and adjustments to that. So that's what this is. And I want to point out a couple of things. The title of it, first of all, it's always been called Student Dress Code, and it resides in JICA, with Section J being the student part of the handbook. But Michelle has found other policies that call it a personal appearance policy, so it gets away from the idea that it's dress, that it's
Students.
more than dress. It's the way, the overall appearance is. So, trying to gauge some reaction from the committee and the board. So if you hear that down the road, that may be an adjustment that we make. The other thing is, if you read the opening line, it says that we expect that all students and staff will dress in a way that is appropriate for a school setting. Again, we're not saying there's a major issue with staff, but I think anytime you have clear policy that outlines what the expectations are, everybody benefits from that. So, but it wouldn't reside in J because that's the student section of the policy code. There would have to be a copy of it would also have to be adopted into G, which is the staff part of the policy. So
I just ask why students, staff, and visitors? Wouldn't it,
Or does it say visitor?
no, why it wouldn't say visitors? We wouldn't, you know what I mean? We want somebody coming into our school that's,
I don't think we can
I don't
do
think we
that.
I don't think
have the
any
right
code
to
of
be able
business.
to do
No.
that.
oh,
I don't think
I
we
could
can
pick my kid
keep
up in
that
my bathing
standard.
suit.
I thought that was in the
Wear
original.
pajamas and
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure
yeah,
that
my
was in the-
jammies.
The only reason I bring it up, unless I'm wrong, I could have sworn it was in the
Our
the
original.
Roanoke, no, the Roanoke one that we're using. Almost positive.
so you have a copy of
Yeah, the
Roanoke.
Roanoke.
I don't want to push
I could be
it
wrong.
that
It
far.
may have the, it may be,
I think you're right, though. Rob. Now that you're saying that,
And I just think if somebody comes in that's
Students, staff, and
and
parents.
parents, which I said visitors, but I meant, I just think if we're putting it in there for the adults that work at the school, then,
That's gonna be a hot topic.
but you know what? It's,
I know.
as an adult in the town, I don't want somebody coming in a bikini to pick up the, I mean, I'm just, and I'm going the wrong way
Oh,
with
no.
that, but in a bathing suit without a shirt on
Speedo.
and flip flops, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But what about a dad who wears a long, I don't know. I'm not-
I-
but it,
just-
the sentence is, this policy is intended to provide guidance for students,
Yeah.
staff, and parents. It doesn't mean parents have to dress,
Parents to
follow
watch
a
their
dress
kids.
code. Yeah.
I just think if we're putting
We'll
it,
let the commi- we'll let the committee-
yeah,
Mm.
but that'd be my only point is I think
yeah,
it should
it's
be
a really good point. See, and I read parent here to be the parents who are trying to help their student get to
That's
school
how I
dressed
read it.
appropriately. Not so much the parent coming to school, but
That's how I'm reading
Oh,
it.
but I wear.
And if we include
Pajamas
parents, we need to include guardians.
right.
Yeah.
So just to give a sense to the board of where we're sort of headed with this, remember, this is early on. It's got to go through the full committee process. But if there's other feedback, now would be the time to get it, or take a look at it and get it to, I think Tina's the rep on that.
Yeah.
So,
I think the only thing I'd say, just having seen these in my own school and in this district over the years, Mike, it would be nice if there was some type of training and a clear cut expectation of who handled this at school, so it doesn't just become another piece of paper that people don't follow.
I agree.
And that's what we talked about as
Yeah.
far as.
It just would be nice to have a
formulating
very
that way.
clear cut.
Yeah.
That
I
if,
think.
that if a para teacher, whoever brings up, I'm not sure about this, that it's looked at and it's not just, I don't want to deal with that parent or I don't want to.
I agree that I think we need to educate our staff on, moving away from the kind of gotcha attitude
Mhm.
into a more helping students learn how to dress appropriately for the job that they're doing.
But then they'll say that's a parent's job, not a school's job.
But I
What
think
about
if,
volleyball shorts?
it just goes back, if you're making a rule and you're not going to follow it, why have the rule? I just think that's a big
Someone in
part
the
of it is
building
train-
needs to be, yeah.
Because I think when you talk about morale in a district, I mean, every little thing factors into it. And I know,
Yeah.
I know when you have something not followed. like
But I think coming up with this also, like they have in New Jersey, that it's pretty.
Cut and dry.
Virginia.
Virginia.
Virginia, it's
That's
cut and
awesome.
dry.
No, it's very cut and
You look
but
like
It's pretty
that.
simplified. I mean, it's
it's just that
it's easy to
fine,
follow.
it's just, there's a fine line when they let it go, that then the new norm becomes.
Right.
I just think it's important if we're going to do a new policy that it is adhered to. That's the-
I agree. And I think that by updating the policy to be more in line with clothes that are attainable and kids are wearing now, and removing some of the restrictions that seem kind of arbitrary, I think it's easier for the kids to comply. But also, like Brian said, it's very cut and dry. It's, it should be, you point at the sign,
Well, most of the administrators are at the front door watching all the kids come in, yeah.
but there's a way to talk to the students about it too, that isn't calling them out
Oh,
or shaming them or
absolutely.
removing them from educational opportunities.
Oh, isn't that politically
So,
correct?
yeah, I
too?
think
I think
agree
it's
with
almost
you
a
there.
two-part process of what we've outlined. So
Mhm.
it's what do we want to say? And then how do the adults who are in that room commit to making sure it's enforced? I mean, it's got to happen. And the students also, I mean, I think having student voice there and maybe having them tell us how they feel it should be enforced is another plus. So.
Right. And then being comfortable in doing so also, rather than saying, what's going to happen to me if I approach someone and tell
Right.
them they're not appropriate.
Right.
So you don't have any, I know you talked earlier, did you have a date set as far as?
We
when you're
haven't
gonna be-
yet. We're still trying to get everybody.
It'd just be nice if we can get this done
Together.
as soon as
I
possible.
agree.
We need it before spring.
Yeah. Right.
We're in the clear for a few months.
Yeah. No, I think sooner the better.
Yeah.
Kind of put it to bed.
Right, any questions on the manifest?
No.
That'll bring us to community forum again. If nobody here from the community, we'll go on to non-public. RSA 91-A:311, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee or the disciplining of such employee with the investigation of any charges against him unless the employee affected, one, has a right to a meeting, and 2, request that the meeting be open, in which
Assume she's
case the
watching.
request shall be granted. B, the hiring of any person or public employees. C, matters which if discussed in public would likely would affect adversely the reputation, I get the A every single time, reputation of any person other than a member of the body or the agency itself, unless such person requests an open meeting.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Rob said yes.
you should record that. Play.
The easy button.
Is this the fastest we've been through?
No.
It's much on the agenda.
We've been faster.
It was a light
But we're
agenda.
20 minutes
In a
early
while.
now.
Good. Yay. Good job.
Can I ask a question on the
Like
monitor?
on purpose.
Or do you have a viewing screen yourself over there?
Yes.